G'day, my name is Peter Coke. I'm the CEO and founder of Vleppo. Today I'm joined by Jez from FunFair. We're just going to run through some questions with regards to FunFair that will complement the research report that we will have published a couple of hours ago. Jez, thanks for making the time. We'll roll into the rapid fire 60, so strap yourself in. We'll see how we go with this. Can you describe your company in 10 words or less?
Yeah, sure. We are a decentralized blockchain gaming company.
Perfect. What single word best captures your company's ethos?
Fairness.
Okay. What is your company's greatest success so far?
We are one of the first blockchain projects to actually be live.
That's a handy thing. And what would you say your company's greatest disappointment so far has been?
That we are one of the few blockchain projects that's been live. We could do with some others. We could do with like safety in numbers and not be like one of the few.
One of the frontier players. Yeah, no, I hear you. In terms of FunFair, what makes FunFair unique?
It is the first live blockchain casino platform, the first one that can offer trustless gaming to the public and fairness at speeds that people are used to, like internet gaming speeds.
Perfect. And who would you say is your greatest rival?
That's actually a tough question because we don't really have competition in our space, but we want to disrupt the entire gaming industry. So we think we can make improvements to the whole gaming ecosystem. So we don't have a specific rival.
Yep. Okay. The next question was how you'll beat them, but I suppose that's a redundant question.
We'll beat them by being a compelling user experience that is much safer to play than existing casino games. In that it's a trustless game. You don't have to trust the casino with your money,
yep.
So it's a big deal.
Yep, huge. And what does success for FunFair look like?
Success is making a meaningful dent on the gaming industry and being able to show that there is actually a better way and that technology can help.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, you survived that, mate, so well played. I'll just quickly roll into just some more general high-level questions, and the intent behind that is if nobody's come across FunFair or if people are within the gaming side and they don't know as much about you as they should, this gives you an opportunity to just provide context. So can you provide a bit of background of FunFair to those people?
Yeah, sure. So we started FunFair about 2 years ago. It is a technology platform for running casino games and doing it in a way that is much more fair for the player, but also less expensive for the casino operator. So there are benefits to everyone. And it supports an ecosystem, including game developers and affiliates. So it's basically a reinvention of the way the casino gaming is currently offered to customers.
Yep. Okay. And could you just elaborate on FunFair's unfair advantage over its rivals?
The unfair advantage is that it's fair, I guess. Well, the words provably fair are bandied about and are highly abused, kind of like the words decentralized are highly abused. But it is those things. It is a technology to be able to offer compelling casino games in a way that the player can trust, that they're getting a fair game and that they haven't had to trust the casino to look after their money while they play. So it is, it is, as far as I'm concerned, it is the dream of a casino games player to be able to play the same games they like playing, only do it in a much safer environment.
And I think that's probably one of the key bits, or one of the key drivers behind the blockchain movement, if you will, is this whole, I mean, counterparty risk is a huge thing, regardless of whether you're in the gaming industry or the finance industry or whatever. And if you can properly harness the technology, and more meaningfully than just throwing around those terms of decentralization, which, everybody's decentralized now, despite the fact that in many cases they don't understand what that actually means. But if you're able to harness that properly and clearly demonstrate that, then you've dealt with your counterparty risk, your credit risk to a certain extent as well. But particularly the interesting thing that caught our eye about FunFair is this whole idea of fairness within the gaming industry itself. because there is always that bit lingering in the back of your head if you're playing a game going, oh, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
Exactly. Absolutely. No, that is the scariest thing when you play conventional online gaming. The games are being run in a remote server, in not only in a remote server, but in a remote server in a place that you may not trust, because it's usually on some offshore island somewhere run by some government that you're not familiar with. And so um, so you quite rightly would be worried to trust your money. And not only are you playing the games hosted in that remote server, but you're also having to deposit your money in advance and leave it in custody of the casino before you can play. And those two things are what scare people. And so although online gaming is actually really big, there's a much larger number of people that don't play it because they don't trust it, whereas they do play land-based casino games because they can see the ball land on the roulette wheel, or they can see the cards being shuffled in front of them, and they believe that that is more fair. So we want to bring the land-based casino experience to online, like to give the same level of trust, and that required the use of trustless technology, which is where we started all this.
Yeah, okay. That's all perfect. And I guess just to round out the sort of the more general questions, so what are the areas that FunFair are specifically focusing on to drive themselves forward? I mean, what are the key sort of milestones in the short end, and obviously
so because we're one of the few blockchain projects that's actually live, we are now learning with real customer data, and we're learning what the customers do and particularly where they get stuck. And for us, we've identified that the onboarding process has become a major issue. And the reason why we know that and few others do is that we're live and we can see the customers are getting stuck signing up. And they're getting stuck in installing a wallet, like running a wallet for the first time and creating an account and backing up their private keys and buying some ETH or in our case, buying some fun. I mean, these things are all outside of our scope of our project. We assumed initially, hey, well, if you build it, they will come. We assumed if we put the most amazing gaming experience that is trustless and fair and everything else on the internet, that people will play it. But the reality is now we can see that they're getting stuck before they even get to our games. And so we've enlarged the scope of our project to fix that. So we're now working on the browser experience and the wallet experience and how to make it easier for customers to become players. And that's not our problem, it's everyone's problem. Everyone in blockchain will have the same problem because people want to experience these dApps, but they can't because they get stuck at the first hurdle. They're using the wrong browser, or they don't understand the wallet and they don't understand how to create an account. So we need to make that idiot proof. We need to make it so easy to use that we can onboard anyone as a customer. And that's what we're working on now.
It's funny you mentioned that, because that, I've done quite a few of these interviews so far, and that's it's the afterthought. It's kind of like, well, we're going to watch this, Mum. We're going to make this amazing thing. That's great. But in the end, it's a beautiful thing. But if you can't get them through the door because they're just trying to get their head around what is a wallet and how do I even interact with it? It doesn't matter.
But now we have the data, and so now we can actually see where people are getting stuck, and we have fine-grained analytics of the customer coming in, and then oops, they're using the wrong browser, and Ethereum doesn't work if you use Safari, or the wallet doesn't work, or and it's not a good answer to say to people, oh, you're using the wrong browser, go try this browser, because they don't.
No.
And it's not okay to say to people, go download this app and install it, because they won't.
No.
Like, you need to run on whatever they arrive on. And so that's what we're working on now. We're going to make it universal access. We're going to make it that whatever browser they use, whatever wallet they use, even if they don't have a wallet, it will run. And it's a big problem, but we're working on it.
Any ideas around timeframes for that?
Well, we're doing it incrementally. So we've already fixed the first couple of things, which is how people buy fun, because they need fun to actually play the games. And we were relying on third-party exchanges. But even that is, if you send someone to an exchange and say, go buy some fun tokens, if they're not already on that exchange, they need to sign up. The KYC process is really onerous. It's a big ask. So now we've integrated AirSwap into the app, so that inside the game you can actually click and get more fun, like in 1 or 2 clicks. So that's the first thing, but that's way down the funnel. The bigger problems are like what browser people are using and what wallet people are using and how they create an account. So those 3 things, and also in our case KYC as well, because we're in the regulated gambling world, and so KYC and AML are necessary, and so we need to streamline that and make it as easy as possible for people. And so far we haven't made it easy. We've used third-party companies to do the KYC, and it's not as easy as it should be. In fact, it's quite tricky. So a step at a time. Some things will be done in weeks, some things will be done in months, but nothing we're doing is going to take years. So we hope that next year will be a very beneficial year for us.
Would it, as a random sort of question, which isn't on my list of questions, but in terms of all that IP that you're building up, does that provide FunFair with a potential another revenue source in terms of being able to package up those solutions for other parties?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something that we haven't explored yet, but we are building a lot of IP. We're building our own games, of which they could be valuable outside of the current work that we're doing. So if all else fails and we don't end up doing incredibly well in the crypto world, we've got very valuable assets that will be valuable in the non-crypto world too. But as our focus right now is the crypto world, obviously.
Yeah, exactly right. But I guess providing you're harvesting that information. I mean, it just would be a tragedy if you're harvesting that information as you go and it's not unlocked. Because my background's financial markets and banking, and again, KYC is an epic pain in the rear. Just generally speaking, and particularly in the online world, banks can often really struggle with that. So if there was a streamlined way of doing that, which was obviously regulatory compliant, and from my limited understanding of the gaming industry, the regulatory requirements are astronomical, on par with banking, or if in some cases a little bit more onerous.
Yeah, probably on par with banking. They're beyond what you do to buy a mobile phone and sign up for a mobile phone account, because we need to do age verification and geo checking, because some countries it's legal, some countries it's not legal. Some countries it's legal if you're over 18, some countries it's legal if you're over 21. So we need to have much better checks to ensure legal compliance. And that is actually one of the things, we'll probably cover this later, but one of the things that differentiates us from many of the other blockchain casino companies is that we're trying to do this legally, and we're trying to do it within the regulatory framework, because ultimately that will be the biggest possible business one day, to be completely legal, to be allowed to advertise in particular countries. And the ones that are not following regulations and that are not doing KYC or not doing age verification, ultimately there's a reason those companies are run by anonymous teams, is because they're illegal, and one day that will be an issue for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, well, that's a beautiful little segue into our first question, first more detailed question. So, how's FunFair different from existing market competitors? So, obviously, that regulatory
obviously, initially, the main thing is that we are trying to do this right, and we're doing it, in the open. We are named people. People know who I am. People know who everyone else in the company is. We are not anonymous, and so we take our responsibility very seriously. And even if it wasn't the law to say that you mustn't allow kids to gamble, that would be morally right to stop them as well. So, and you can't tell someone's age by just asking them, are you over 18, yes or no? You actually have to verify by seeing some kind of legitimate identity. So you just can't allow self-declaration of stuff like that. So we're trying to do it right. But the main things we're doing are fairness, trustless gaming, which basically means that the player can play from their own wallet. The funds are in their control. When they gamble on a roulette table or whatever, the money is going into the game, deciding if it's won or not in a correct and fair manner, and then paying the win immediately. It's not being held by the casino in custody for you. You don't have to trust that anything's good or bad. It's literally the technology enforces fair play, and also that you have custody of your funds at all times.
Yeah. It's and it's interesting too that that seamless. And again, I look at most things from a banking perspective because it's just how we roll. But the ability to not have funds locked in custody, obviously that would that cause an issue for casinos in the sense that they wouldn't necessarily have a float of capital just lying around, a lazy capital. Does that?
There's definitely the capital requirement is definitely different because actually one of the things, because it's funny because I'm going around the world talking to casino uh, industry people about what we've done,
Yep.
and one of the first things they ask me is, "You mean I have to actually have the capital to be able to pay the win immediately?" And I go, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you do.
Could
I mean,
afford.
that's the law that I know. If the customer plays a game where you actually have an advantage because you're the house and you
Yep.
have the house edge, if they play a game and they win, pay them." Like pay
Yep.
them immediately. Don't
Mm.
promise them that they'll get paid and then a few weeks later maybe pay them or look for some excuse as to why you aren't going to pay them. Pay
Yep.
them immediately. So it's like that's the reality. So yeah, we insist that the casinos actually have the full bankroll that
Mm.
they need to cover any bets that are played, which is actually, if you were a land-based casino, that would be the rule anyway. You
Yep.
know, in your vault, you would have all the money that you need to pay off any wins of any play during that day, or
Yep.
probably even during that week. So we have the same rules, and it's enforced in technology. Like literally, when the player is playing a game, when they put money down into the game to play that game, the casino is matching that amount in escrow with
Mm.
the full amount that could be won in that game.
Yep.
So if you're playing a jackpot that could play 100 to 1 or something, the casino will match that in advance in escrow, so that you get paid immediately if you win.
So I might just follow this a little bit. And again, this isn't on the list of questions, but this is interesting from a capital management perspective. So on that basis, if it's a dollar for dollar matching piece with regards to their exposure, then consequently, would that not restrict or potentially constrain the amount of customers these casinos could take in? Potentially,
Yeah, so we do it in real time. So it's basically while the player is inside the game,
yeah,
the capital has to be locked up from the casino that the player could win. But as
right,
soon as the player has quit the game, or if they leave it lying around like an hour later,
yeah,
it will auto quit. Then the capital is released. So the
right,
casino needs to have enough capital to cover all of the players that are going to play simultaneously. But
mm-hmm.
the reality is that in a 24-hour period, players are going to dip in and dip out
Oh
from
yeah,
all time zones in the world, and so you don't need to have um, quite as much capital as a day's worth of players. You just need to have enough for any moment in time
yeah,
that you'll have simultaneous players, and that's the capital requirement, and it's quite reasonable, and it's part of the fairness guarantee, and it's going to be part of what attracts players to play in those casinos is that they
mm.
know that they can rely on the outcome and that they'll get paid immediately.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, from a sheer curiosity perspective, and like principally it's definitely the right way to do it, because in the end you've leave the technology aside for a moment, you've dealt with the counterparty risk straight away, just even having that framework in
Yeah,
place. So
yeah,
the idea of somebody going belly up and all of a sudden you've lost thousands of dollars, that's dealt with just in principle around the structure of the way this operates. Obviously then
yeah,
when you overlay the technology on top of that, it's almost like a double guarantee, which I would have thought
yeah,
in this space is
yeah. No,
obviously crucial. So, okay, that's really interesting.
yeah, it's so many ways that it's fair. It's also fair for the ecosystem players because even if you're an affiliate and your job is to find customers and send them to the casino and you get paid as a revenue share, in the
Yep.
traditional casino model, you get accounted monthly or quarterly, and then you're always wondering, did they fully pay me for all the players I sent them?
Of
And
course.
like this, it's real time. The affiliate gets paid as the players are playing. The affiliate is getting a piece of the revenue share immediately. And the same with the game developer. The game developer that has made the game that the player is playing on that casino
Mm.
gets a revenue share for their game immediately. They don't have to trust that the casino is going to screw them or not in the future. They will get paid by the technology, but by the platform itself, the protocol and the platform
Mm.
immediately. And it's all, it's just a way better system for doing the entire casino gaming ecosystem.
Well, absolutely, and just even thinking it from the perspective of the affiliates, because I mean, again, affiliates are one of the key components to this industry, as
Yeah,
far as I know.
yeah,
So the idea
absolutely.
of not having to effectively bankroll the casino for 3 months while you're waiting your cash to come through is
Yeah,
going
No,
to be hugely attractive.
yeah, we hope it'll be very attractive. There's also some affiliates would love to be a casino one day, and with the technology we've built, all of the overhead, all of the technology, all of the platform is done for them. So some affiliates, instead of just sending traffic to other people's casinos, might actually want to run their own casino, and their skills of acquiring customers directly benefit from that themselves. So the technology we've built would allow that to happen.
That's really interesting. Okay. In terms of, so the natural question around Ethereum. So, why have you chosen to continue developing FunFair on Ethereum? Is there not a more scalable blockchain alternative that might have ticked the box?
So my answer is kind of a bit nuanced on that. So Ethereum is more than just the speed of its blockchain. It's an ecosystem. There's a lot of participants. There's a lot of academic research. There's a lot of great developers. There's a lot of apps and dApps being built. So Ethereum is actually still extremely valuable and a great place to be. It's at the forefront of blockchain technology. Yes, there are some blockchains that are faster than Ethereum today. And they've achieved that speed usually through compromise of some of the things that make blockchain special. So they might have compromised on the decentralization, or they might have compromised on the validation of transactions, or on the privacy or censorship resistance. So there's no perfect answer right now. You can either have something that does everything you want, but it's not as fast, or something that's much faster that doesn't do everything you want. And so we haven't yet, we're still very immature in this industry, and we haven't figured out what's truly important to us. But right now, we think that Ethereum is scaling. There are short-term scaling that will be modest. There's long-term scaling that will be drastic. So we're happy with Ethereum for now. And if ever it becomes an issue, we're not wedded to it. We could be on some other blockchain tomorrow. Some will offer more advantages than others. The code, everything we've written, we built ourselves, so we're not reliant on anything else. So if we wanted to be on EOS in a few months' time, we could be. But for now, we think Ethereum still offers us the best, option of ecosystem. I should also add that some of the people that are finding blockchain, particularly Ethereum or Bitcoin, slow, are people that haven't got layer 2 scaling technology. That's an area that we're very strong. We have the only state channels live on mainnet in use today that we built ourselves. So we have a full scaling technology. That means we don't suffer whatever speed the actual underlying blockchain runs. It doesn't matter to us, because we only need one transaction done on the blockchain, and then the rest of the game, thousands of transactions happen in real time using fake channel technology, our own fake channels. So we're pretty immune to the actual performance of the underlying blockchain. And if we ever need to be on another one, we will be.
Okay. How does FunFair tackle decentralization on their protocol, or is this a note of importance to the company?
Yeah, decentralization is very important to us, and so one of the principles that we follow is that both the player and the casino are untrusted in our protocol. So our protocol allows any casino and any player, and also any developer and game developer and affiliate, and them all to interact with each other in a trustless way. So for us, the decentralization is very important. And it's not only important for the code that we built, but it's important for the blockchain that we run on, because privacy and censorship resistance and decentralization all go together. And some blockchains have compromised on those things, as mentioned. And it's not actually right now. It's not of critical importance that the censorship resistance, but one day it might be true. So we think that we have a good balance. I mean, there are some things that you cannot today have fully decentralized, like your website is accessible through the normal internet, and there's normal domains that are centralized, and there's DNS that is centralized, or somewhat, it actually is relatively decentralized, but still, it's still. So if a country wanted to capture a domain name, they could today. The domains aren't decentralized. Now, it's also true that people are working on decentralized web, There's IPFS and Swarm and many other solutions. So one day all of that will be solved, and one day it will be possible to be fully decentralized. But today, I think that you're decentralized if the technology works on a decentralized blockchain.
Okay. So there's been community concerns been raised with regards to the lack of open source by the community.
That is very funny, because the community that complains about the fact that we're not open source are our competitors. They're the ones that want to know how it works and how we did what we did, and so it's always been our goal to have parts of the protocol be open source, particularly the parts involved in fairness, because that is part of the principle. And it's still under development, and we're still making changes to it, so it's not finalized. And we will open source most of the protocol when it's finalized. That's our goal. We're not going to open source everything we've built, because we built an enormous amount of tech that doesn't need to be open source, and we're a commercial venture ultimately. We're not doing this to help everyone else compete with us. We're doing this to have the best possible casino platform, and the parts that need to be provably fair will be open source, and the parts that don't need to be won't be.
Yep. Okay. Understood. Just on the revenue model of FunFair, so how is that structured?
So well, we have multiple elements in our technology stack, and so one of them, as mentioned, the protocol is kind of free to use, and so there's actually no charge, no revenue for the protocol itself. There is a transaction fee, but it goes to the system. It doesn't actually, it's not actually revenue as such. We make our money from games. So we build games, which anyone could build games. So any games developer could put games on the platform, but we happen to be the first, and the first 15 or 20 games are ours, and we get a revenue share from them, and that is a very sustainable business, and we'll keep building games to put on the platform, and the games won't be open source, and they're a commercial product, but the games run on the protocol and the platform, which most of it will be open source. So we're happy with the games revenue and zero platform revenue in the short term. And the reason why we've done zero platform revenue is to make it a compelling opportunity for the casino operators, because when they look at the alternatives that they could license, most of them they have to pay 10 or 15% revenue for the use of the platform to the platform provider, and by us charging zero, it's already extremely beneficial for them to adopt. So we're basically forwards pricing it for adoption. That's not to say that in a few years' time, when everyone's using it, we won't start charging. Just like Google and Facebook initially were free, and Twitter and everything, all technology companies, initially you kind of have to give it away to get everyone using it, and then you will find ways to monetize it. And so we're doing the same thing. We built the platform and the protocol, which we don't intend to charge for, that is all about adoption. And we make our money from the game, so we're happy. That's our long-term plan.
Okay. So what's your take on community involvement in the development of the FunFair platform?
It's been very invaluable to us, because we've involved the community from day one, from when we ICO'd, and we use them as our beta testers. We use them for information and feedback. We have constant communication with our community, and it's very helpful for taking the temperature of some of whom are going to be customers, some of whom are very intelligent advisors, some of whom are trolls, but you just have to live with that. We find the interaction and involvement of the community to be invaluable in the product roadmap, so we'll keep doing that. We tweak how we do it, because, as I said, there are trolls, and you can't get around that. But the signal to noise ratio is still pretty good, so we're still happy that we involve the community.
Yep. Okay. And just and finally, how's the gambling community themselves perceived FunFair's offering in terms of reliability of usage by comparison to off-chain alternatives?
So I think some of them are bemused that, are you saying that we're not fair? Or, you know.
Yeah.
So I think some of them are like, you know, are you accusing us of not being good to our customers? And some of them are, yeah, this is the future. We want to, you know, do these experiments and take part in whatever the next step is in you know, gaming, and you know, making it safer and more fair for the customers. I think the better companies long term will be the ones that want to do the best for their customers, and their customers will appreciate them and they'll acquire new customers by being the place where you know you can get, you know, safe and fair games. In some regulated markets, like the UK is a great example of this. We've had, you know, legitimate gaming companies for forever, and so there isn't the same distrust of online gaming or gaming companies in general in the UK as there is in some other countries. So the UK isn't our primary market. We also have an issue that we have to teach regulators why this is a good thing, and their initial reaction to blockchain is usually being scared of it because it's new, and you know that and Bitcoin, don't they use that for buying drugs? You know, like, well, we don't actually take Bitcoin, but it wouldn't, you know, they haven't really appreciated what the technology can do for them yet, and they haven't engaged with us on the whole. There are regulators that do like blockchain and that we are talking to, and so like Malta and Gibraltar, for instance, are very forward thinking and are really pushing ahead on blockchain, and they'll be the places where we'll, you know, probably have the most receptive interest initially, and then there are other regulators that it's going to take them some time to understand the benefits, and their official line is there is no benefit in blockchain, but that's actually plainly wrong. Just not taking custody of customer funds is a big deal. And if they don't see that, they really should think again.
Well, and this is the thing. Interesting, you raise Malta. So I was there. I was there for the blockchain summit not that long ago, which was quite an interesting experience. And then listening to the they are very open minded, and certainly have quite clearly worked it through in their minds around, well, okay, this is the future. This is where it's all going to go. Let's engage with players in that space and not necessarily control it, but put guardrails around it to make sure that there is a process. And I think that's a really happy medium from, you know, kick it out and let's just embrace it with all, you know, whatever goes. There's a very balanced approach.
It is a balanced approach, and it's very cautious, and actually they're not rushing into it, you know, in some ways, because we are actually ahead of the game in that we are actually live with a product that actually would fulfill all of their requirements, but they're not actually licensing blockchain companies yet. They will do next year, and initially they're starting with just cryptocurrencies. They're not licensing blockchain casinos, but later next year they will license blockchain casinos, and so we'll be, you know, among the first to get such a license and then be able to operate through Malta. But initially we are operating from other places like Curacao, because they are the first to license. And you know, eventually there'll be other regulators too.
Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty much all I have from my side. Look, thanks for that. That was very informative. And like I said, we'll take this video and just make sure that our research report is capturing the subtleties and the nuances of what we've got here. But we'll rule off the interview there. Thanks very much, Jez. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Peter. It was a pleasure.
Mate. Cheers.